Welcome to Faith Alive in 5, the 5-minute gospel. Now here's your host, Dr. Faye.
For some reason, I cannot leave David alone. I am back today as we continue this series of closing the gap between the prophecy and the promise and looking closer at David, the greatest psalmist and the apple of God's eye. And God loved David. Yes, he did. And I look at that and think, why did God love this man so much? Well, because in all that David did, he understood, knew, and realized that God was God. When he wrote Psalms 23, look at it. The Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not lack. How powerful is that? Coming into this reality, this light of knowing that God is shepherd. David understood what it meant to be a shepherd, to watch over a flock, to make sure that the lions and the wolves would not come and devour your sheep. That he was protecting his father's assets, his father's money, assets, money. David was protecting his father's investment. And God saw how diligent David was in protecting Jesse's investment. And God saw that David could be trusted in taking care of his assignment. My question to you as we continue in this, closing the gap between the prophecy and the promise, can God trust you with his investments? Can he trust you with the gifts and the talents and the abilities that he has graced you with? Can he trust you to use them for his glory? Or will you succumb to the systems around you of being liked by people more than acknowledged and loved by God? Will you succumb to whatever group it may be, whether it's a denomination or whether it's an organization, whatever it may be, will you be governed by that more than you will be governed by God? I think every human being should ask themselves that question. But of course, this is my opinion. When Saul discovered that David was anointed and the people favored him, they favored David over Saul. Saul was the people's king, that God gave them a king because they wanted a king over a judge, because the other nations looking outside of the God nation, the other nations had a judge, had a king. So they wanted to trade their judge, God being the judge of the whole earth, for a king. So God gave them a king after their own heart. And after Saul had ruled, then Saul was seen as not as qualified anymore, because Saul ceased to acknowledge who put him there in the first place. So the opportunity came for David to come before Saul, and he played the harp because Saul was troubled in the spirit. He could not sleep. And a messenger said, well, you know what? There is a psalmist. There is a boy who plays the harp. And he came in and he played the harp, and it soothed Saul's savage soul. And it gave him peace. And so David continued to play and be anointed of God. So as time went on, and David ended up having to be in a position where his life was in jeopardy because Saul was so jealous of him, jealous of the anointing on his life. Do you know people like that who are jealous of the call of your life? You may not call it anointing. You don't know what to call it. You just got people that are hating on you and are jealous, and you don't know what to do about it. I tell you, you can't do anything about it, because there are people that's going to be hating on you no matter who you are and what you do. They got to find fault in you. And if they can't find fault, they'll make some up. Some people are better at it than others, right? So you have to learn to move past that, what the naysayers are naysaying about you. David had acquired a reputation among the people, and he was loving on the people the way God was loving on him. You can't give away what you don't possess. David was loving on people because God was loving on him. And why was God loving on him? Because David was a worshiper. He worshiped God. You want to close the gap between the prophecy and the promise and get God loving on you? He loves you, but you want him to love on you. Yeah. And find such great favor that it'll mesmerize you. It'll just intoxicate your soul. You want to close the gap between the prophecy and the promise. I want you to become a worshiper. Jeez, we're out of time already. So you got to come back next week as we continue this journey. I'm Dr. Faye, your pastor coach. You'll find me at happychurchinternational.com. That's happychurchinternational.com. Bye-bye now. God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to today's broadcast. Dr. Faye would love hearing from you. Contact her today at 870-860-9758 or email coach@drfaye.com. And remember, the calling is a gift, but the choice is yours.